Well, some big news to report to you. Newsmax has settled with Dominion Voting Systems. As you may recall, Dominion Voting Systems sued Newsmax and outlets like Fox News for their coverage of the 2020 election. Newsmax was sued for $1.6 billion. Newsmax continues to stand by its fair and balanced reporting on the 2020 election and does not believe it ever defamed Dominion. Newsmax was sued in the Delaware courts, and Newsmax in a statement today, or rather yesterday, saying that Delaware Court Judge Eric Davis took steps to prevent Newsmax from having a fair trial, leaving the company little choice but to settle.
So that is a MAGA Newsmax host announcing live on Newsmax TV that they were forced to settle with Dominion Voting Systems for spreading Donald Trump's 2020 defamatory election lies about Dominion in particular. Now, Dominion went after Fox News, got them to settle for $787 million, and Newsmax settled for about $67 million. We'll look into the reporting on this, but this guy is clearly upset. The Newsmax was forced to bend the knee, and he's blaming the judge. Okay, but before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so that ends, as far as I'm aware, the last lawsuit by Dominion against a major news network. It went after Fox and again successfully procured a massive settlement, the biggest defamation settlement in American history, and then it just succeeded in procuring a settlement from Newsmax as well. Let's take a look at the reporting. Newsmax will pay $67 million to settle Dominion lawsuit over network's 2020 election lies. Egregious lies about the 2020 presidential election are going to cost Newsmax $67 million. To avert a high-stakes trial, the right-wing cable channel has agreed to pay Dominion Voting Systems $27 million this month and another $40 million over the next 2 years. The settlement deal was struck last week and disclosed in a Newsmax financial filing on Monday. Quote, "We are pleased to have settled this matter," a Dominion spokesperson told CNN, declining to comment further. There was no indication that Newsmax will offer any on-air apology or acknowledgement of its false claims about Dominion, and based on what we just saw from that clip, presumably not. Even Fox News, despite getting its ass kicked in that defamation settlement, did not have to offer an on-air apology either. I wish Dominion would have fought harder in that respect, because I think that would have been not only intensely satisfying to watch, but incredibly important for reasons I'll lay out after we dive into this. But there was no indication that Newsmax will offer any on-air apology or acknowledgement of its false claims about Dominion, a voting hardware and software company that became the target of many pro-Trump conspiracy theories about the 2020 presidential election. The lawsuit was filed against Newsmax in August 2021 in the wake of Donald Trump's attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat. After losing, Trump and his allies, including many Newsmax guests and on-air personalities, spread the baseless lie that the election results were fraudulent. Earlier this year, a Delaware judge ruled that Newsmax did air defamatory statements about Dominion by falsely accusing the company of rigging the 2020 election. The judge said it would be up to a jury to decide if the smears were intentional, and if so, how much Dominion deserved in damages. But the expected April trial was postponed by the judge, citing a professional matter unrelated to the case. Then money talked, just as it did when Fox News settled with Dominion on the verge of a similar trial in 2023. Fox agreed to pay $787.5 million, a gobsmacking sum that weighed on Fox's quarterly earnings at the time. In explaining its decision to settle, Newsmax blasted the judge who presided over the case. The company said in a statement, let's actually take a look at the full statement if we can. Quote, "Newsmax believed it was critically important for the American people to hear both sides of the election disputes that arose in 2020. We stand by our coverage as fair, balanced, and conducted within professional standards of journalism." Let's see. I am curious if they even acknowledge here who won the 2020 presidential election, but let's see. The Delaware court under, this is a quote, "The Delaware court under Judge Davis effectively enforced confiscation of our property because our reporting was not always sympathetic to Joe Biden," said Newsmax CEO Christopher Ruddy. Quote, "The actions taken against Newsmax and earlier against Fox News represent a direct attack on free speech and a free press." Quote, "The judiciary's willingness to punish news organizations for reporting on matters of urgent national debate undermines the role of the press in a free society." This is, again, a statement from Newsmax. And again, it's just stunning to hear this shit from Newsmax as they co-sign and happily clap like seals and cheerlead Donald Trump's extraordinary attacks on the free press. Well, listen, defamation law exists, and it's really, really hard in the United States to successfully prove defamation. It is. I mean, First Amendment protections are incredibly robust. The odds are generally against a litigant trying to bring a defamation case. So it's not even 50-50. The odds are against you if you bring a defamation case. The fact that Fox and now Newsmax felt the need to settle indicated that they knew they were probably going to lose a case that's unlikely for them to lose, which means or sounds like they were just caught red-handed in defamation. And you being forced to settle a defamation settlement is not necessarily an attack on free speech or the free press, again, given the advantages that you have under the First Amendment. Okay, it might be different if we were in Great Britain or in the United Kingdom. Then I could understand where a media organization would be like, damn, these lawsuits are just automatically constitute an attack on free press. Well, not here in the United States, not necessarily, okay? So it's just, again, ironic that they would claim that given what they co-sign under Trump or what they appreciate about Trump. They have no smoke for Donald Trump's lawsuits against various news organizations and news outlets. They have no smoke for Donald Trump's threats against media and the free press. They just say when liberals and Democrats do it, that's assuming that, again, Dominion is either of those things. But when people they don't like do it, it's an attack on free speech. When Donald Trump does it, it's righteous and he should continue. In explaining his decision to settle, Newsmax blasted the judge who presided over the case. The company said in a statement that it believed Delaware Superior Court Judge Eric Davis, quote, would not provide a fair trial, and further claimed without evidence that Davis punished the network because, quote, our reporting was not always sympathetic to Joe Biden. The right-wing network complained that Davis's pretrial rulings, quote, limited Newsmax's ability to defend itself. Among Newsmax's gripes was a key finding from Davis that it was false for anyone on Newsmax to claim that the 2020 election was rigged, a pivotal boost for Dominion that was consistent with how he ruled in the related Fox Dominion lawsuit. Court spokesperson declined to comment. Court watchers and First Amendment scholars have praised Davis's stewardship of both cases. He has been seen as an even-handed arbiter with little patience for grandstanding or shenanigans from either side. The judge was appointed to the bench by a Democratic governor in 2010. Earlier this year, Delaware Governor Matt Mayer, who is also a Democrat, promoted Davis to the president judge of the Delaware Superior Court, commending his, quote, fair and balanced approach to the law. Newsmax maintains it never defamed Dominion and reiterated Monday that it believes its 2020 election coverage followed, quote, accepted journalistic standards. The network has repeatedly pointed out that it broadcasted a, quote, clarification segment in December 2020, saying it didn't have the evidence that Dominion manipulated any votes. There was no immediate indication of how Newsmax and Dominion arrived at the $67 million sum on Monday. Newsmax's TV ratings, however, are roughly 1/10 of Fox's ratings, so that's, a little less than 1/10 of the sum that Fox News had to pay, so it might just be scaled. Nearly 5 years after the pro-Trump campaign to overturn the results of the 2020 election, some lawsuits by victims of the smears continue to wind their way through the courts. Fox is aggressively fighting a defamation suit by the voting tech company Smartmatic. Newsmax agreed to a $40 million settlement with Smartmatic last fall on the eve of a trial. So about $107 million have been spent by Newsmax in settlements against Dominion Now and earlier Smartmatic. And again, we have been tracking Smartmatic's lawsuits against Fox News. And there's no guarantee that it will be as successful or successful at all as Dominion's case against Fox News. But the point is, this is good. We're seeing accountability by right-wing media that tried to help Donald Trump undermine the results of the 2020 election. And this is one of the most frustrating things about the post-Trump world. So, when 2016 happened, we were obviously not happy that Donald Trump won the election. But to the extent that, the elections are decided by the Electoral College and not the popular vote, which is in our system, unfortunately, Donald Trump was the legitimate winner. He was. He got the Electoral College votes. He lost the popular vote, but he got the greater number of Electoral College votes and thus was declared the winner. Democrats, by and large, accepted that. We weren't happy with Trump, but there wasn't a fake elector scheme. There wasn't a January 6, 2017 insurrection. Joe Biden, then vice president, presided over the counting of the Electoral College votes, certifying Trump's win. President Biden, Vice President Biden at the time, and President Obama didn't conspire with Hillary Clinton to try to overturn the election results. MSNBC acknowledged the outcome. There is no counterpart to what we saw after the 2020 election with Donald Trump and right-wing media. None. And Hillary Clinton conceded formally, publicly, and privately that she lost to Trump. So what we're seeing here is at least some small sense of justice in an otherwise unjust political world. I think this is objectively good. I think it's hilarious that Newsmax is so triggered. Well, it's because of a judge. The damn judge made us settle. We're left with no choice. Miss me with that shit. This is objectively good. People should celebrate this, and people should be paying attention to how Smartmatic proceeds against Fox News and see what goes from there. But especially with Trump back in power and constantly talking about how he actually won the 2020 election and it was rigged, and we're seeing very little pushback by the media, this is a small, bright spot for media accountability with respect to an election that was not stolen. As a matter of fact, Trump tried to steal that election and failed, but Biden won it fair and square. So I think this is objectively good, and we'll see what happens with Smartmatic and Fox News. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.